Good morning, everyone, and happy Tuesday. I am bringing you your Inspirational Vitamin today. I just wanted to share with you guys something cool I've been learning in this little devotional series I've been doing, all about trusting in God. And so we'll be reading in Esther chapter 4 today, but to give you a little bit of backstory, at this point, Mordecai is basically talking to Esther about what she needs to do. She's a queen. She's being asked to approach the king about something which is a huge risk and could possibly end in her death. But essentially, at this point, Haman, who is an official of the king, had risen in the ranks, was asking the king basically for people and money to do with as he sees fit. And the king granted his wish, and Haman decided to essentially order like the murder and genocide of the Jewish people who were Mordecai and Esther's people. So Mordecai's asking Esther to do this really hard thing in order to save like the Jewish people, to save Israel. So we'll be reading Esther chapter 4, and we'll read verses 13 and 14 together. So it says, Mordecai told the messenger to reply to Esther, "Don't think that you will escape the fate of all of the Jews because you are in the king's palace. If you keep silent at this time, relief and deliverance will come to the Jewish people from another place. But you and your father's family will be destroyed. Who knows, perhaps you have come to your royal position for such a time as this." I think frequently we tend to focus on the last part of this passage where it says such a time as this. We often use this to like bolster us when we're in a really tough situation, or we have to make a hard decision, or we just need a little bit of extra courage. But reading through this Devo series, I just felt convicted about in the middle of the passage where Mordecai is saying, essentially, if you choose, Esther, not to step up to the plate in this way, like relief and deliverance is going to come from another place. Like God is going to provide whether you decide to be used or not. And I know for me, I think part of my like sinful nature and my pride can sometimes be about like I am the only one that can do this thing. I am the only one that can accomplish this task or fill this role or provide this need. But what Mordecai, I think, is teaching me in this is that like I am not the God of the story, just like Esther was not the God of this story. She played a huge role and was so important in this task. Like she did step up to the plate and God used her in a huge way. But ultimately, like God is the hero of the story. And Esther isn't. And I think a lot of what like Mordecai teaches us is just about like God's sovereignty and God's providence in the world and in his own life. Like he was asking Esther to do a hard thing, but at the end of the day, he knew that God was going to provide whether or not Esther decided to play a part in this. And I think it can be both humbling for us and I don't know. I just think it's humbling for us to have that same mindset, to be told like, I want to fill this need or step into this role, but even if I don't, like God's going to provide in some other way. It helps me feel like I can trust that God is going to take care of things just as much as it keeps me humble about my own. Like I am not the God of my own story. Like God is the God of my story. And I just love the example of trust in God and trusting God's sovereignty and providence that Mordecai exemplifies for us. And the humility that both him and Esther show in this. Like Esther's humility is incredible because she knows that she needs to fill this role, but God is still God and God's still going to do his thing. And I thought it was a really cool and different perspective that was offered to me. And I hope you think so too. Thanks.